Hello there, my name is Lynn Kobdisha. This is the Handshake here on New Vision TV. Paul Bushariz is with me here to make a few, make us understand a few things here and there. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So there are bank regulations that were put in place for every bank, I hope, to, follow and act on. And somehow these banks are failing. They're having issues, complying with these regulations that were set. Would you know of any of these regulations?
Well, so banks make their money from borrowing.
Okay.
But in certain circumstances, people can default on their loans.
Right.
Now, if there's a way that the banks measure the risk of a loan going bad, and if let's just say you have 100,000 shilling loan that looks like it's going bad, so you should be able to put some money aside in anticipation of that loan going bad. They call it provisioning. So under the new rules, they are saying that it will not be enough to provision. You've handed out the loan, and then you've seen it going bad. Then you provision actually in the past, as if you've already handed out the loan. Now the new rules are expecting banks to look forward and say this loan is tricky or not, and provision. I'm sure they'll have a formula for doing that. Okay. If it is lien has a certain record of repayment or not, you can provision. I think they'll have a formula for that. So they want people to provision going forward. The banks, however, are saying that that some banks, not all, but some banks are saying the data requirements, the amount of information they need to be able to project into the future, is what is challenging them. Yeah.
That's all that is challenging them.
Well, I think that's the major challenge, as I read in the paper. But maybe the question then would be, why would the Bank of Uganda be doing this kind of thing? First of all, I think it's an international requirement.
Okay. But
it's also to ensure that banks are more focused on risk. It's all very nice passing out the money, but how? What is the chance of you getting it back?
Yes.
So I think the central banks are trying to get banks to have a more serious discipline about lending. When you lend, you better make sure it comes.
In a situation where they don't pay back, what happens?
Exactly, and especially since you're lending depositors money.
Yes.
So you can't go to the depositor and say, you see. No stories. The deposit is supposed to be protected. So this is a way to mitigate against the risk of default of these borrowers.
What would they do to, comply? What do they need to do?
I think some of them, the argument is that they just don't have enough data. So, for example,
what do you mean enough data?
I suspect what is happening is that many times as people, we don't stay with our banks very long. I have a better deal the other side, I move. And I think there might be a challenge in getting all this data together to assess lien's risk of default. Now, if you can't assess it, you need past history. Of course, if it's your first loan, they probably have a standard. First-time borrower will put this aside as saving to guarantee against the loan.
Right.
But if you've been borrowing over time and you're not with the same bank, then I think that's the challenge they are saying is they have to be able to assess properly.
Paul, away from that, Uganda Airlines planes are almost here. What is that smile on your face supposed to mean? Well,
I think it's a bad idea. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it is an idea that the Uganda Airlines reviving it it's going to be more work and more resources than we think. The people who have pushed this airline have not been entirely honest with the government about what this is going to cost us.
Right.
Well, the planes are going to come. Let them come.
But why are they under pressure to revive it?
Well,
do they just want to fit in with the rest of the East African countries?
I don't know what the pressure is really. There are more urgent things. There are more urgent things to do, and there are more profitable things in the sense of, if I invest in like education or I invest in health, the returns are much more much more better for this economy than if we put in an airline which
Sure.
is not going to make a profit for the next 10 years or so.
Anyway, Paul, we cannot stop it. They're already on their way.
They're on their way.
Yeah.
What to do?
So one more interesting thing is that the Mineral Wealth Conference is on at Munyonyo for 3 days. And I'm told this is a big deal for the sector because it brings together all the sector players. However, I don't understand what it's an annual thing.
It's an island
What
event.
exactly are they
It's an
looking
oil
at?
and gas,
Yes,
oil and
yes,
gas conference.
yes.
But this year is particularly interesting, yes, because in June this year is when we expect the oil industry players to attain what they call a final investment decision.
Wow.
That they have laid out their plans, their projections of how much money they will make,
Right.
what it will cost to lay down infrastructure, set up offices and all that kind of business. And that when that final investment decision is signed off, that's when the money starts coming through. So June is the time everyone expects it to happen this year.
Right.
So this conference is going to be a lot about then what are we going to do, what's going to happen, what can we expect, and all that kind of business.
All right.
Kind of interesting.
That's really good. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.